Well, we continue into another segment talking about Republican hypocrisy on the issue of kids, protecting the kids. And now we're talking about free lunches for students K through 12 in the state of Minnesota. And we'll talk about, luckily, this bill got signed into law by Democratic Governor Tim Walz. But before that, while it was being debated, Republican State Senator Steve Drazkowski, maybe pronunciation, Drazkowski, I think, Drazkowski, he was opposing this bill, K through 12 students having their breakfast and lunch covered while they're at school. And his explanation for why he opposes it, just look.
Mr. President, I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that is hungry. Yet today. I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that says they don't have access to enough food to eat. Now, I should say that hunger is a relative term, Mr. President. You know, I had a cereal bar for breakfast. I guess I'm hungry now. That, to some, might be maybe that's the definition of the bill. I don't know. I didn't see a definition of hunger in the bill, Mr. President. But I think most reasonable people suggest hunger means you don't have enough to eat in order to provide for metabolism and growth.
So sick of people celebrating, bathing in, broadcasting their own ignorance. Ugh. So there's a thing that's done sometimes within these types of conversations, and we'll get to the facts in a second here, of pretending that there's nothing in between starving to death and having the proper amount and type of food. There's a huge difference, and there's disastrous consequences to not having that proper situation in terms of food for children. And so pretending like, oh, find me an example of someone who starved to death yesterday means we don't have real problems with food insecurity is so dishonest. Here from 2020, the Department of Agriculture, Economic Research Service, U.S. Department of Agriculture, 14.8% of households with children were food insecure. 14.8% of households with children. And to get you an explanation on food security is defined as having access at all times to enough food for an active, healthy life. And 14.8% in 2020 were not having that provided to them. And then here from 2022, this was published, No Kid Hungry. 1 in 8 kids in the United States are living with hunger. That's 9 million children. Some of these children are missing meals. Others are faced with hunger-related hardships as parents and caretakers make trade-offs between buying groceries and paying bills. So how callous it is that he would talk like that, not just opposing the bill for whatever the reason might be, but pretending there's not a real problem with food insecurity in our country and in Minnesota specifically. And then you might be thinking, okay, of course we shouldn't have 1 in 9 children who are food insecure not being given the proper amount of food to live a healthy life. But I'm sure the program's already in place in terms of free lunch and subsidized lunch and breakfast for children in school already cover those who need it, right? No, CBS writes, 1 in 4 food insecure children don't qualify for support under current federal programs, according to Hunger Solutions Minnesota. This comes at a time when visits to food shelves have soared to new heights, increasing by 50% over the previous year. So, no. And then, to lighten it up, this did end up getting signed into law, which is awesome. Here from CBS Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz put his signature on the Universal School Meals Bill Friday afternoon, providing free breakfast and lunch to all K-12 students, regardless of their parents' income. That is fantastic. This is what our leaders should be doing. And by the way, in case you're wondering, okay, if a lot of people aren't qualifying, just raise the threshold. Everyone doesn't have to qualify, but just raise the threshold so more people do. But there's a lot of information that's been gathered on when you have some people who qualify, some people who don't, there can be a stigma created and just a social harm done to children, with the awareness that they have to get the subsidized meal and other people don't. Instead, make it universal. A country that is as wealthy as the United States should not be having to pinch pennies on the food of children. It's really that simple. We're plenty fine spending way more than we would ever need to spend on this in all sorts of places that Republicans support, that are far less necessary than the lives and health of children. And that's what we're talking about here. And then just for the sweetest little image you'll ever see, or video, this was the signing.
It is now law.
Ow! My eyes! And my legs hurt too.
Again, I say, that is why that's what our elected officials are supposed to be doing, providing something to people. And then I'm sure that video is very politically rewarding for him, but great, because that's what you're supposed to do as an elected official. And we should have universal meals for kids in schools, K through 12, across the board, 100%, absolutely no question about it. And it's pretty bonkers that we don't already. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.